My best friend demanded I lend her money for the fifth time, saying, "Real friends help each other no matter what." When I refused, she scoffed, "Fine, I'll just find a friend who actually cares." Months later, she called me crying her new friends had stolen everything from her. I took a deep breath and said, "Real friends don't use each other no matter what." I met Sarah during our freshman year at the University of Texas at Austin. We were both assigned to Jester Center, one of the largest residence halls on campus, known for its bustling atmosphere and diverse student population. Our rooms were just a few doors apart, and we quickly bonded over late-night study sessions and shared meals at J2 Dining. We both majored in communications, often collaborating on projects and supporting each other through the challenges of college life. After graduation, we both secured jobs in Dallas and decided to become roommates. We found a modest two-bedroom apartment in the Lower Greenville neighborhood, an area known for its vibrant nightlife and proximity to downtown. The rent was manageable, and we were excited to start this new chapter together. The first time Sarah asked to borrow money was about 6 months into our lease. She had encountered unexpected car repairs and was short on cash. She approached me one evening, visibly stressed, explaining the situation. Without hesitation, I lent her $500, and she promised to pay me back after her next paycheck. True to her word, she repaid me within a few weeks. This initial loan didn't raise any red flags. After all, friends help each other out. However, over the next year, Sarah's requests for financial assistance became more frequent. There was always a reason: medical bills, helping a family member, or covering rent after an unexpected expense. Each time, she assured me it was a one-time favor, and each time, I obliged. By the fourth loan, totaling over $5,000, I began to feel uneasy. While she had repaid some of the money, there were always delays and partial payments. One evening, as we sat in our living room watching a rerun of our favorite show, Sarah turned to me with a familiar look. "I hate to ask, but could you lend me $1,500? I'm in a tight spot, and I promise this is the last time." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the previous loans. "Sarah, I've helped you multiple times before. I think it's time you find another solution. I can't keep lending you money." Her face twisted in frustration. "Real friends help each other no matter what. Real friends don't take advantage of each other," I replied softly. She scoffed, standing up abruptly. "Fine, I'll just find a friend who actually cares." With that, she stormed out of the apartment. The following months were tense. Sarah moved out shortly after our argument, and we lost touch. I heard through mutual friends that she had found a new circle, often flaunting her lavish outings on social media. It stung to see her seemingly thriving without me, but I reminded myself that I had made the right decision. One rainy evening, about 6 months later, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Surprised, I hesitated before answering. Between sobs, she recounted how her new friends had convinced her to invest in a dubious business venture. Trusting them, she had pooled her savings and even taken out loans. They had promised significant returns, but instead, they disappeared with everything, leaving her in financial ruin. "I don't know what to do," she cried. "I'm sorry for how I treated you. I should have listened." I felt a mix of emotions: sympathy, anger, and a lingering sense of betrayal. After a pause, I said, "Sarah, real friends don't use each other, no matter what." She was silent for a moment before whispering, "I understand." While I couldn't offer her financial assistance, I guided her towards resources that could help her navigate her situation. Our friendship had been deeply scarred, and while forgiveness was possible, things would never be the same. The experience taught me the importance of boundaries and recognizing the difference between helping a friend and being used by one. I didn't block her number, but I didn't reach out either. After that night she called me crying. I didn't hear from her for weeks. I assumed she'd moved on, maybe trying to pick up the pieces of her life. Part of me hoped she was finally learning how to stand on her own. Another part of me didn't really care. I was too busy rebuilding my own peace after everything she drained out of me: money, energy, trust. Then one morning, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. A real letter. My name and address handwritten on the front. I opened it and felt my stomach twist. It was from Sarah. But it wasn't an apology or a thank you. It was a demand. In the letter, she wrote that I owed her. That if it weren't for her emotional support all those years, I wouldn't have made it through college. She said she helped me through my anxiety, my breakups, my first job panic. She said the money I gave her was nothing compared to what she gave me, emotionally. And then, in black ink, she wrote, "You either help me now, or I'll make sure people know who you really are." I reread that line over and over again. My hands were shaking. It felt like a threat because it was one. I wasn't sure what she meant at first. But then the messages started. A couple of our mutual friends reached out, confused. They'd heard things, half-truths twisted into something ugly. That I'd stolen money from Sarah. That I'd sabotaged her friendships. That I'd manipulated her during college. It was like she was trying to burn every bridge she ever crossed and take me down with her. I tried explaining to a few people, but some of them didn't want to hear it. They already made up their minds. Others just stayed quiet, clearly uncomfortable. I realized then what she was doing wasn't just petty. It was personal. Strategic. She wanted to ruin my reputation, turn people against me. Maybe she thought she could guilt me into giving her more money if she made my life miserable enough. I went quiet. Didn't respond to her letter. Didn't call. Didn't try to defend myself anymore. Instead, I started writing down everything. Dates. Times. Screenshots. Emails. Messages. Just in case. A few weeks later, I was leaving work late, around 8 p.m. It was already dark, and I was walking through the parking garage to my car. That's when I saw her. Sarah was standing by my car, arms crossed, eyes red like she'd been crying or screaming or both. My heart dropped. "I just want to talk," she said. I didn't answer. I just stood there, my keys tight in my fist. She stepped closer. "Why are you doing this to me? You made me this way. You abandoned me when I needed you the most." "I didn't abandon you," I said slowly. "You used me. Then you tried to destroy me." She started crying again, but I didn't move. "I lost everything," she said. "They tricked me. They used me. You were the only real one." I wanted to feel sorry for her. I really did. But she didn't come to make peace. She came because she still thought I owed her something. "I'm not giving you money," I said. "Not now. Not ever." She screamed then, loud enough that it echoed in the garage. I backed up, ready to call someone if I had to. "You'll regret this," she yelled. "Everyone sees who you are now." She turned and stormed off, disappearing into the darkness. I sat in my car for a long time afterward, trying to process what had just happened. She was unraveling, and I didn't know what she'd do next. 2 days later, my work email was flooded with complaints. Anonymous reports claiming I was unethical, that I mistreated coworkers, that I was harassing Sarah outside of work. Someone submitted a formal HR complaint using a burner email. The timing wasn't a coincidence. HR called me in. I had to sit there and explain everything, walk through personal history I didn't want to talk about, all while keeping my job on the line. Thankfully, I had the documentation. The screenshots. The emails. Enough to prove someone was targeting me. They said they'd investigate. They told me to stay calm. That night, I changed all my passwords. Locked down my social media. Set up 2-step authentication on everything. I wanted to believe she'd stop eventually. But every time I thought the storm was over, she'd send another wave. She was spiraling, and I was somehow the anchor she was trying to drag down with her. I started sleeping with my phone on silent. Started watching over my shoulder when I left work. I didn't know how far she was willing to go. But I was done being her fallback plan. Done letting her rewrite the past. She wanted chaos. And for once, I wasn't afraid to face it. A week after HR wrapped up their investigation and cleared me, things went quiet. Too quiet. No new fake emails. No drama from mutual friends. No Sarah sightings. I should have felt relief, but instead, I kept waiting for the next hit. I didn't trust the silence. It felt like the calm before a bigger storm. It came in the form of a text from my older sister. "Why did you give Sarah our parents' address?" I stared at my phone, confused. My parents lived in Waco, a solid 2 hours from Dallas. I hadn't talked to them about Sarah since everything went down. There was no reason she should have even known where they lived. I called my sister immediately. "She showed up yesterday," she said, voice tight. "Claimed you told her to go there. That you wanted her to reconnect with people who still cared." She made Mom cry. She was screaming on the front lawn. I felt sick. I hadn't told Sarah anything. I hadn't even mentioned Waco to her in over a year. Not since the last time we drove down together for Thanksgiving and she threw a fit over my mom making green bean casserole instead of sweet potatoes. Somehow, she had found them on her own. I drove down to Waco that same night, heart racing the entire time. When I got there, my mom looked pale. She sat me down and showed me a card Sarah had left behind. It had a weird message inside. "He left you too." I see where he gets it. She was trying to make it seem like I was the one turning my back on my family, trying to drive wedges into the people I still had. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the couch with my laptop, digging. I opened a fake Facebook account and started looking through Sarah's public posts. That's when I found it, an account under a new name. Her photos, same face, but a different identity. She'd made a fresh profile claiming to be a life coach, marketing herself as a healer, and mentor for women recovering from toxic friendships. She'd taken my story, my actual story, and flipped it. She posted vague stories about how a former friend had stolen from her, gaslit her, emotionally abused her. People were commenting, offering sympathy, asking how they could help. And she was collecting donations. Venmo, Cash App, even PayPal links in the bio. She had turned her meltdown into a business. I sat there, staring at the screen, jaw locked. This wasn't just her being unstable. This was premeditated. She was using her pain to get money from strangers, and the story she was selling was based on lies about me. I reported the page. Reported all the links. But these platforms move slow. And she was good. Never used my real name. Never shared a direct photo of me. It was all crafted to look just vague enough to be believable. I didn't know what to do. If I went public, I'd look petty. No one would care. But if I stayed silent, she'd keep profiting off of me. A few days later, I got a DM on my personal Instagram from someone I didn't know. A woman named Courtney. It just said, "Hey, not sure if this is weird, but I think we have a Sarah problem in common." I replied, and we set up a call. Turns out, Courtney was one of the women who'd become part of Sarah's healing circle. She'd donated money, shared her own personal stories in private Zoom sessions, and even hosted Sarah in her home once for a women's retreat. After a while, Courtney began to notice strange things, Sarah contradicting her own backstory, asking for money in ways that felt manipulative, guilt-tripping people who didn't give enough. Then one night, Courtney's wallet went missing. Her bank accounts were accessed the next day. When she confronted Sarah, she was blocked on everything. Courtney had been gathering evidence. She found me through a comment Sarah had made in one of the group Zooms, something about a toxic old friend who worked in marketing in Dallas. She connected the dots. I wasn't the only one. There were others too. At least 5, according to Courtney. All had similar stories. All had been scammed, manipulated, or emotionally torn apart by Sarah. And all of them were scared to speak up. So we made a private group chat. Shared stories. Compared receipts, screenshots, PayPal history, DMs, call logs. The more I read, the more my stomach churned. She was a serial manipulator. She had a pattern. Find people who were vulnerable. Attach herself quickly. Get sympathy. Gain access. Exploit. Repeat. One of the women even found a Reddit post from a couple years back. Buried in r/relationships. A throwaway account. But unmistakably Sarah. Venting about her cold and cruel roommate who left her homeless during a medical emergency. Hundreds of people commented, supporting her, calling her friend a monster. That post was about me. It was from the time I told her I couldn't lend her money for the 5th time. And there it was. In her own words, her side of the story, spun so tight and dramatic it could have won an Oscar. I forwarded everything to Courtney. She was already talking to a lawyer. We weren't sure what we could do yet, legally. But emotionally, mentally, we were done being quiet. Sarah was good at lying. She was even better at making herself the victim. But now, she had messed with too many people. And this time, we were ready. The group chat turned into a full-blown mission. Courtney took the lead. She was the most organized, the one who didn't let emotions get in the way. I was still angry, still raw. But I followed her advice, and so did the others. We compiled everything. PDFs, screenshots, recorded Zoom calls, even a voice memo where Sarah admitted to lying about one of the women to make the story better. Then came the day we found out she was applying to be a guest speaker at a women's wellness event in Austin. A big one. Public. Media coverage. She was going to stand on that stage and sell her story of pain and healing through betrayal. She had crossed the line. So we acted. We didn't show up to the event. We didn't throw drinks in her face. We emailed the event organizer, each of us separately, with our evidence. Clean, detailed, emotion-free. No name-calling. Just proof. Then we waited. 2 days before the event, Sarah posted a story on Instagram, so excited to speak my truth at this beautiful gathering of strong women. 2 hearts #healing #resilience. The next day, her name was removed from the speaker list. She didn't post anything after that. Then the texts started again. First to me, then to Courtney, then to one of the others. She knew we'd done it. She said we'd ruined her. That we were jealous. That we couldn't stand seeing her rise. I blocked her. Courtney didn't. She told Sarah exactly what we all felt. You climbed on our backs. Now you're falling alone. That night, I sat on my couch, reading back through my own screenshots. My texts to her. The money I gave. The guilt I carried. I wasn't innocent. I should have said no sooner. I let her take too much. I kept giving chances when I already knew she was breaking them. But I owned it. I forgave myself. And I kept going. 2 weeks passed. Then a month. Then I got a call from an old friend, one who had taken Sarah's side when everything first went down. She sounded nervous. Hey, Sarah just emailed me, saying you're spreading lies about her. She wants me to forward you a cease and desist. I laughed. A dry, exhausted kind of laugh. Let her, I said. Tell her to send it straight to Courtney's lawyer. I never got that letter. But I did get something else. One night, I went to a local networking event. Just casual, 4 people in media and marketing. I didn't expect much. But as I was sipping my drink, a woman tapped my shoulder. Are you the person from the Sarah thing? I blinked. She smiled. Courtney told me. I was in her second retreat. She scammed me too. I wanted to say thanks. She walked away after that. Just a short moment. But it stuck with me. Sarah thought she could silence people. Thought she could keep twisting her story over and over until no one remembered the truth. But she was wrong. The truth didn't just come out. It grew. 1 person at a time. Quietly. Steadily. Until her lies stopped working. The last I heard, she'd left Dallas. Moved somewhere else. Changed her name again. Started another new identity online, smaller, less polished. Maybe she'll find another group to fool. Or maybe not. But I'm not scared of her anymore. She doesn't get to own the story. We do. And this time, we told it right.